Well, you're very welcome back to the Midlands Today programme. We're joined in studio now for our house and home slot with thanks to Nolan Kitchens. Ed Horan from Ed Horan Construction joins us. You are very welcome to the programme.
Morning, Clara. Thanks for having me.
If you want to pull in a little bit closer and get yourself comfortable there, Ed, it'll be great. Ed, this is quite a unique construction organisation that you're involved in. Can you tell us briefly just a little bit about it?
Well, we run a general construction company. We specialise in attic conversions and extensions. Seem to have become quite popular with the downturn. People aren't building new houses. They're kind of working with what they have, trying to improve it. And attic conversions in particular are quite a cost-effective way of increasing the space in your house, and seem to be quite popular at the minute.
When attic conversions, I kind of first remember them kicking off in the 1980s. Was that when they really started?
To be fair, people have continually, since attics existed, been trying to convert them, people trying to increase the square footage of their house without increasing the actual footprint. Attic conversions, along with the whole construction industry, have moved significantly with the advancements of different structural elements, different insulations, different windows. Whereas the ones of the 1980s that you spoke of would have been previously quite cold and drafty and really spaces that people didn't want to use. Just with modern insulation and improved building techniques, they're as comfortable as any other room in the house and should be as thermally efficient, if not more so.
I know some bedrooms that have been converted, or attics converted into bedrooms for when families grow, and an extra room is needed because brothers and sisters don't want to share together anymore. And the attic, they fight over the attic, kids do, because it's a cosier. Is it the heat coming up from downstairs makes them a very warm room?
Well, it wouldn't be so much just the heat coming up from downstairs. That would definitely be a factor. But the attic conversion, being the newer room in the house, should be built in line with the modern building regulations and should have greater insulation and in some cases an air tightness membrane, which would improve the comfort level of it. People often do fight over the attic converted room, as it tends to become the largest room in the house.
Well, this is true. It's not always, though, for bedrooms, is it? I mean, you can convert in for office space as well. Yeah,
people primarily convert attics for, as you said, home office, extra storage, bedrooms, ensuite for expanding families, or just to have as a spare room. We've converted a couple that people have used for studios, for artistic work. We're currently working on a design for one for a particular guy who wants to set up a music studio. Just all different uses really, but primarily bedrooms, storage and office spaces is what people tend to use them for.
The music studio sounds the most exciting though. That must be an awful challenge because you'd have to soundproof it as well.
You would have to soundproof it, but it's a little stretch further with your insulation. Your thermal insulation will do a lot for your acoustic insulation as well. So it's just to go a little step further, and it hopefully will work out for the guy, and he seems very happy with what we've presented so far.
Hopefully it'll work out. I'd say you'd be in trouble if it doesn't work out. I had a question there for you now. It's about general public ourselves. Do we just as a nation now hate a waste of space? Because the attics before they are big, and we threw our junk up at them and closed them off and thought nothing of it. But huge space.
Oh, it's surprising. It's often the first comment out from the client after we do the walkthrough at the end of the project, and they just can't believe the extra space that they've gained, whereas they just had a water storage tank and some old suitcases and Christmas decorations. Now they have, as I said, the largest room in the house, in some cases en suite. And they are like a lot of people are sitting directly underneath a quite a usable space that's never really utilised unless you actually go and convert it properly.
What are the biggest catches, or what are the things that you look at when you first enter an attic and you're charged with changing it into a room? What are the big things that you look for after installation?
Well, the very first thing that I would look at when I would go to assess a property, or any homeowner themselves could quite easily go and assess, is the height. Once you get into the attic, from the top of the ceiling joist, which would be the timber that you would be standing on, from there to the underside of the ridge board, which is the timber that will run all the way down the middle of the roof up over your head. If you have about 2 metres at that measurement, it would be sufficient to convert it. Or if while you're standing on it, if the average person has, about 250 or maybe 8 or 9 inches above their head, then it would be feasible to convert that.
It's actually something I never even thought about. You'd have to be able to stand in it, wouldn't you?
Well, that's it. Like, if the space, if you can walk down the middle of it, there's a fair chance you'll be able to convert it to practical usable space.
What about light?
Again, what you can do with Velux windows now is amazing. Like, they're so big, and because they lie in line with the roof, they let in more light than a standard window would. So in essence, like, a smaller window pane being a Velux window will let in more light than a larger standard wall-mounted window.
The big thing that's striking me there, and it's just flashing back to when you were saying you're doing a studio for a guy, a music studio, electricity and the demand on plug sockets. Would the whole house need to be rewired to accommodate it?
No, not at all. We work consistently with the same electrical team, and it's very important when you're getting any electrical or plumbing work carried out in an attic conversion or any area of your home to make sure that the person carrying out the work is certified and that the work is all done in line with regs and will be safe. But to answer your question, it is no problem at all to put any number of sockets, TV points, lights, any electrical feature that you can have anywhere in the house, you can quite easily have in your attic conversion.
Okay, so if I wanted an attic conversion and I wanted a bedroom on one side and an ensuite on the other side, is that a problem?
No, that's not a problem. The ensuite often adds a sense of luxury to it, and it's a part of attic conversions that people would try for. The only problem with it is that it takes up space, so it would be dependent on the amount of space that you originally had. But again, if through the initial consultation, a clever design can be worked out to accommodate pretty much anything you want into it. As long as we know from the start, we'll try our best.
You'll do work around it. I'm really into the finished product side of things, because when a house is being built and all of that, I would completely stand back, and I'd be the same with an attic conversion. But once it comes to the decorating, who steps in then?
Well, we work again. I like to work with the same team the whole time, and we have a decorating contractor that we work with. But it is one of those kind of stages where the client will often try and save money by painting it themselves, or maybe a family friend or that will help out with it and that kind of thing. But we have taken many of them from the initial attic space right through to finished product.
Because I was just interested in, do many people keep the beams? Because there's in some houses the beams are exposed. Well, they are in all attics, aren't they? Exposed.
What you would be talking about there would be collars. And they would have to be moved to gain access to the actual space itself. You can, if the roof affords it, you could still have exposed beams. I
love them.
Yeah, it is only a certain kind of roof where you could actually have it. It is a height thing. Once they are exposed, it has to work for head height.
And if you're considering wooden panelling around the room, then as well, does that have to be taken into account when you're making the plans up, the drawings for the attic?
Well, yeah, it is best to know from the start exactly what you're going to put into it, and it would be very important to discuss with the contractor or company that was going to carry out the works exactly what the finished product was going to look like, and from the start, and you get a good sense of what sort of insulation is going to go into it, what sort of finish is going to be on the walls.
Because if you were doing a wraparound wood thing on the outside, would the difference be in the plaster, what you put on the wall? You wouldn't need a smoother finish.
It wouldn't need to be a skim coat finish. You could finish it out with a tongue and groove board or any sort of timber paneling after. Again, it is just about relaying the information to the contractor at the start of the project.
Tell me about the worst possible client to have, because I think I might be one.
The worst possible client to have is basically if the attic can't be converted. And we previously spoke to a client who invited me to look at his attic, and I am 6'1" and I wasn't able to stand up in there. And although the man was a little bit shorter than I am, I tried to explain that this wasn't going to work necessarily the way he wanted it. But he assured me that one of his neighbours had converted his, and I tried to
Probably did it himself.
He did do it himself. He's our work, and I tried to explain that there's certain building regulations in terms of fire and structural elements that need to be met, and we were trying to work with him for a different design, but he was adamant that his neighbour was able to convert his in at a very low cost.
And do you just have to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that, maybe if you want to check out with other people?
I would every time walk away from a project if it wasn't going to be built exactly the way it needed to be built in terms of structure and fire, and to make sure that it's safe and left the way things should be left, and there's no fear then after of anything going wrong. Like,
it strikes me what somebody with that kind of an attic could do. They just have to use it for storage spaces, just floor it down, put rails for clothes and shelves in for books and stuff like that.
Well, you can. That's quite a common an economical version of an attic conversion. People will fit the likes of a loft ladder or a stair for access, and in that case it can be used for extra storage and not as a bedroom. It would need to have a permanent escape route, such as a fixed staircase. But people can, they just sheet out with a loft board or an attic board and insulate the space, and they can use it for storage.
Okay, so if I'm not using it as a storage space, and you mentioned about a stairmaster there, a staircase, if you were doing it for a full conversion, do you need to put in stairs?
Yes, if you intend to use the room as a bedroom, it would need to have a staircase fitted.
Okay, so that's brilliant. Okay, is there any other tips people should know if they're going out looking for their attics to be converted?
Again, it just comes down to the same things with all construction products. You'd want to discuss from the beginning. Talk is cheap in this instance. Like to discuss exactly what you're going to get in terms of, you want a structural breakdown, you want a thermal breakdown in terms of what insulation is going to go into it, an electrical breakdown in terms of what lighting, sockets, a plumbing in terms of what heating, and if there's going to be an ensuite, exactly how that's going to work, how it's going to work in relation to the water pressure in your house, how the stairs is going to be fit, what the actual finish is going to be like, and it doesn't cost anything to ask those questions at the start, and your contractor should be more than happy to discuss them with you. After that, people should kind of be wary of extremely cheap versions of attic conversions. So you will get people who'll come along and they'll say, I can do it for X amount cheaper, but it is important that all of the structural elements are met and that all of the building regs are met.
So basically, I suppose it's really just look for people's certs and maybe even references.
Yeah, references, certs, ask for testimonials from previous clients, photographs, all manner of things like.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there, Ed, but thanks very much for coming in.